Hey everybody. So today we're going to talk about how many billable hours do you need to reach a particular goal. Now, just to start, the reason we're using billable hours is because it's the common denominator that tells you how much work has to be done in order to get to the result that you want to do. It doesn't mean that you're doing billable hours. You could be on contingency, you could be flat rate, subscription, hourly. It doesn't matter. It is a common denominator that helps you understand how much work your firm can do, what's your capacity, and how much work needs to be done in order to reach the goal. The answer of we'll just work more isn't very helpful. We need to have numbers, okay? And so I'm going to do a big stretch goal. The goal that I'm going to set is $2 million. $2 million of revenue, okay? If you're, at or near a million, great. The math is going to work out the same way. There's going to be different numbers, but the math equation is going to be the same. All right. So in order to figure out how many billable hours do you need to hit $2 million, you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need to know what your revenue was over a specific period of time. And you're going to need to know your billable hours. All right. Now, again, it doesn't matter how you bill. How many hours did it take to get that revenue? That's the question that you need to ask. How many hours did your legal team spend to get that revenue? All right. What this is going to tell you is a really, really important thing. It's going to tell you what your average actualized billable hour is. Okay. Actualized, what do I mean by that? That means money that you collected, not that you billed. So if you bill $500 an hour, your average actualized billable hour is not going to be $500 because that would presuppose that you collected on every second of time that you spent, everything that you charged, that you never charged anything, that you never wrote anything off. I mean, all of those numbers come down. So what we're looking at is your revenue divided by your billable hours is going to tell you your average actualized billable hours. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of inside scoop. Our firm currently, as we're doing this, our actualized hours is $236 an hour. It's all of our legal staff, which is mostly lawyers, but we do have paralegals from time to time. For every hour that we bill, we bring in $236. And I know that because I know what the revenue is, and I know how many billable hours it is. So let's start doing the math. If we're looking at $1 million and we divide that by 236, what do we get? We get 8,450 hours. 8,450. Okay. That's how many hours that your firm will have to bill at this rate, or actualize collecting at the receiving this amount in order to hit $2 million. Now, one of the things I'll just caution you is how steady is that number? Have you been having an actualized hourly rate in the neighborhood of this number? Whatever your number is, you'll have your own number, but whatever your number is, has that been consistent, or does it fluctuate wildly? If it fluctuates wildly, you still are going to need to take an average and go, okay, over this period of time, 6 months or a year, this is how many hours we billed and this is how much revenue we brought in. Stated another way, in order to get that revenue, you had to put in that amount of work. Okay? So, these numbers are going to vary, but I'm just going to use these numbers because this is where we are. All right. Now, what would I do in this circumstance? You need to divide that by 52, right? Out of 52 weeks. So you need 8,450 hours over 82 weeks. And what does that come out to be? That comes out to be 162.5 hours a week. Okay. Now, what does that mean in the real world? Well, one of the things that you should know, and hopefully you do, if you have billable hours, you know, especially if you have a track record, if you've been tracking your billable hours for an extended period of time, what you're going to see is trends. You're going to see a range in which the billable hours are. In our office, it's anywhere from 100 down to 60, right? It's a big range. It's too big. So you got to ask yourself, is everybody working at capacity, or as I have said in other videos, people should be assigned 80% of capacity. Don't go 100% because you just burn everybody out and you leave no room for emergencies. So what would 80% of the capacity, all right? So if you're looking at 40-hour week, 80% would be 32 hours, right? So, but in the real world, are your lawyers and are your legal staff billing 32 hours a week? Clio did a report a few years ago that said that out of 8 hours, every 8-hour day, people are billing about 2.5 hours. All right, which is really bad. And you need to know, if you're paying someone 8 hours a day and you're only getting literally 2.5 hours of billable time out of them, you're not going to make any money off of them, right? You're going to be breaking even. You need them to be billing probably 5 to 6 hours a day, potentially, okay? But what you need to know, the important thing is not what you should be doing. The important thing is what is really happening in your firm. How much time are people billing? Now, 162 hours. So what would that mean? I'm sorry to say, but when we look at our billable hours and divide it by 52, what that means is that we come back at 18.3 hours per person. All right, that's what we are currently doing. So if that's what we are doing, in order to hit this, we need 9 people. All right, now, how do you get there? Let's say you have 3, and now we're talking 9. All right, how are you going to get there without going through the roof on your payroll and everything? Well, the other option would be, what if you had 5 people doing 32 hours? Now, is that reasonable? It'd actually be 32.5. Is that reasonable? Can you get your staff to actually bill 32.5 hours a week? That's a lot. You're going to work more than 40 hours, especially if you have meetings or any kind of non-billable stuff. If they have to do intakes, or they're going to no charge for certain things, how are you going to get your 32 hours? So what would the compromise be here? Well, the compromise would be if you had 7 employees and they were doing 23.2 hours a week. All right, those are per week. All right, so 23 hours a week. It's more than we're doing right now, but it's not a big step up. That's basically 1 extra hour a day. What is that? 5? Yeah, it's an extra hour a day. Okay, probably a lot of that can be fixed up by efficiency or taking something off of their plate. So if you have lawyer staff, legal staff doing some administrative stuff, relook at that and go, can we take that off of somebody's plate? Because you need these hours, right? You need these hours right here in order to hit that goal. If you don't get 8,400 hours, you're not going to get $2 million, unless you're, in a contingency PI case and you hit a big one. But even in those kinds of firms, there is a relationship between how many hours you work and how much you get. Yes, there are, big cases that will settle quickly, but as a general rule, if you're doing a PI firm and your goal is to hit $2 million, then you're probably doing a lot of fender benders and you're not getting a lot of $1 million verdicts or, $500,000 verdicts. So these numbers you still got to grind out the work. You still got to do the work that has to be done. And for your firm, what you need to know is, what is that number? What number of hours do you need in order to get to 2 million? Once you know this, right? Once you know your goal and what you need to do, now you can start planning. Now you can start budgeting. In another video, I talked about, keeping your payroll 40 to 45% of your revenue. That should give you some guidelines. When you grow, you may have to pop over that because you're going to have people coming in and the money's not going to, it'll catch up, but it doesn't show up. They show up the first day and you have to pay them, even though they may not bring in a nickel for a period of time. And there's lots of stuff that goes on with that. But when we're talking about how many hours you got to work, that's how you figure it out. You need to know your revenue. You need to know the billable hours that are being done. If you don't know these two things, then you need to start tracking this. And we talk about that in another video. And what you need to figure out is the average actualized billable hour. What do you get for every hour that you bill? How much money actually goes into the bank account? All right, everybody, I hope that's helpful.